It's go time. Last year, right before I reviewed the One RS, I broke my foot, which made that review somewhat challenging. This year, right before I reviewed this camera, I broke my wrist. Can't wait for next year. Rather than delay this review until after surgery, I decided to just suck it up and try to do the best that I could. But there were some more physical activities that I wanted to try with this camera that I just couldn't. I'd like to thank Insta360 for sending me this for the purpose of making this review. At first glance, it's easy to mistake this for the Go 2. It has the same look, the same style, but there are some significant changes. Just like my wrist an hour after breaking it, the new camera has increased in size in every direction, and the weight has risen from 26.5 grams to 35 grams. The reason for this increase is that now it has a significantly larger battery, better heat management, and better performance. It still has the single front button and the removable lens protector, which is just a hair larger than before. I have the 64 gig model, and at the highest resolution, it stores almost 3 hours of footage. The really big upgrade here is the charging case. It's now called the Action Pod, and it completely changes how this camera can be used. When it's out of the pod, it's still a tiny POV cam that you can mount to your chest or hat or almost anything. But snap it into the Action Pod and it becomes more like a traditional action camera, with much longer battery life and a display that flips up for selfies. We have a record button, power button, quick menu, metal latches for mounting, and the base is also magnetic. There's a USB-C port and a release button for the camera. My favourite part is that the pod acts as a wireless remote and gives you a live video stream from the camera. This feature is something I've been really excited about because I can use it to get the angle I want and make sure the exposure looks good, even when I've mounted it somewhere awkward. And being able to see the settings in real time and start and stop recording, it's just brilliant. The video link has quite a short range though. Here I have the camera mounted to this bird feeder and I'm standing about 2 meters or 6 feet away and it's working well. But when I try to connect from about 4 or 5 meters away, it seems to connect, but only gives me a black screen. So while the video link is amazing and it's my favorite new feature, just keep in mind that the range is quite limited. The material quality of the Action Pod is really nice. It's extremely solid, and the flip-up display is super sturdy and stiff. There's no play whatsoever. The whole thing is really small too, a lot smaller than a GoPro or a One RS, and it feels incredibly dense. The Action Pod is splash-proof when the camera is in, but it's not designed to be submerged in water. The camera itself though is waterproof down to 5 meters. It comes with this metal pivot stand. This holds the camera with magnets and latches and has a reusable sticky pad on the bottom so you can attach it to your car or your paddleboard or any smooth surface. Unscrew that and now you can put it on a selfie stick. It also holds the Action Pod as both it and the camera have the same magnets and latches. I like to use it with one of these for attaching to my bike or my paddle to get some weird angles. It comes with a hat clip and a new and improved magnetic lanyard. There's some really nice soft silicone here now, and the rope is concealed inside for neat storage in a pocket. You can now mount the camera upright, sideways, or even upside down. You also get this little wedge thing, which adds some angle to point it up a bit or down a bit depending on what you want to shoot. Like if you're cooking, you'll want to angle it down, and if you're flying RC planes, you'll want to angle it up. Those accessories all come in the box. It can take photos, which is nice, and you know, a few people are going to be into that kind of thing. Maybe people who wear beige sweaters and visit a lot of castles, but probably most of you will never even go into that mode, so I won't spend too much time with The maximum resolution has increased from 1440p to 2.7K. It's only a slight increase, but Insta360 say they've improved the overall image quality and colours too. Comparing side by side to the Go 2, it does look better, though the difference isn't massive. At 2.7K, the highest frame rate is 30 frames per second. Dropping down to 1440p increases that to 50. Normal video mode provides the best quality at 2.7K, and this is the mode I use most as it produces usable files straight out of the camera. There's also free frame video mode, which drops the resolution down to 1440p, but also allows you to change the aspect ratio and move the view around a bit in post. There is no longer a limit to the clip length, which is fantastic. It will now record continuously until the battery runs out, and in my time with it, it never overheated. It has flow state stabilization, which still kind of boggles my mind that a thumb-sized camera with barely any weight to help steady it can give us smooth footage like this. There are 3 levels of stabilization. The higher you go, the more lag you'll see on the display when it's recording, but the more stable your footage will be. And going higher doesn't change the amount of crop, which is nice to see. If you record in free frame video mode, you'll need to bring the files into the app or desktop software and export them. You can add stabilization afterwards in post and change the aspect ratio, and it's in there that you'll get the 360 horizon lock, which keeps your footage level even if you rotate the camera at the full 360 degrees. There is no horizon lock or horizon leveling available in the camera itself in any mode. It does 50 frames per second if you drop the resolution to 1440p, and in this mode you get stable footage. It also does 120 frames per second at 1080p, and the results are slightly improved over the Go 2. The stabilization in this mode doesn't work very well, so you'll need a steady hand. Tiny cameras like this one just aren't designed for low light footage, but this camera still puts its little heart out there and tries its very best. There's a new low light stabilization mode that attempts to reduce the smearing and smudging effect that action cameras suffer from in low light. And I wasn't expecting much, but it quite surprised me in how much of an improvement it makes. Just like the Go 2, this does surprisingly well in low light for such a tiny camera, and even beats some of my other action cameras. The Go 2's audio was okay but not great. On the Go 3, the mics have been upgraded and the audio is quite a bit better. I'm in a little forest area. How does the audio sound? Are the mics on the Go 3 any better than the mics on the Go 2? Audio test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Audio test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, this is an audio test without wind reduction turned on. This is just normal stereo audio, and I'm in the middle of a field on a very windy day. Wind is 36 kilometers an hour, and this time wind reduction is turned on. Let's see if that makes a difference to how my voice sounds with all the wind. Is it able to get rid of some of the wind? Does it sound any better? I'm not sure yet. The battery life has a claimed 50% increase. In my test at the highest resolution, I got about 40 minutes on the standalone camera, and when in the action pod at the highest resolution with the screen on the whole time, I'm getting about an hour and a half of continuous recording, and at 1080p with the screen off, I'm getting close to 3 hours, so battery life is really impressive. The batteries aren't user replaceable in either the camera or the action pod, which means in maybe 3 to 5 years when the batteries expire, this may end up in a landfill, which makes me a bit sad. It doesn't have any kind of horizon leveling in the camera, and I wish it did. I'd rather not have to import the footage into the software and render it out just to get horizon leveling. I'm also a bit disappointed with the maximum resolution. The footage does look nicer now, but it doesn't do 4K, and the increase from 1440p to 2.7K in terms of actual pixels is very slight. The Go 2's resolution was 2560 by 1440, and the Go 3's is 2720 by 1536, which I think is only an increase of 13.33%. There's still no 60 frames per second option at any resolution. It's still limited to 50. Which is a bit of an awkward frame rate for people like me who use 30 FPS timelines. Maybe they could give us a 60 frames per second option in a future firmware. Hint hint, wink wink. When you record using slow motion mode, hyperlapse or time-lapse, you can't play back the footage on the camera. You'll have to use the desktop software or the app to view and export those files. And lastly, the standalone camera no longer vibrates. So now when it's on your shirt, it's harder to know if you started or stopped recording. Long-time viewers of my channel might know that the Go is one of my favorite cameras of all time. It's completely unique. It's tiny and it can get me certain shots I can't really get with any other camera. This third iteration brings much better battery life, a small bump up in resolution and quality, and the new Action Pod adds so much to what I'm able to do with this now. It also makes configuring your settings so much easier. It's like two cameras in one now. Standalone mode for shorter clips, POV shots, water sports, racing drones, and getting interesting angles. And then snap it into the pod when you want to record your entire bike ride, or flip up the screen to make it a tiny vlogging cam. The build quality and materials are absolutely beautiful, and the touchscreen interface is smooth and snappy. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about this one. I'm going to be using it a lot this summer, hopefully, once my wrist is fixed. And so this one gets a thumbs up from me. If you found this useful or interesting, I'd appreciate a thumbs up from you. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.